Now, extracurricular activities, some of you may be interested to know that we're going to be covering more of this in our school profiles later down the track. However, that would include camps, excursions, sporting tournaments, musicals, dramas, chorals, school productions. So there's a huge range in which students can be involved with, apart from just their academic studies. It's multicultural, as I said. Melbourne is really a melting pot. And I think I mentioned just now, we achieved the highest score for having the best student mix in all of Australia. It's very caring. We pride ourselves on our welfare support, meaning that our pastoral care is of utmost importance. You have the principal being the ultimate welfare provider. You've got a dedicated full-time international student coordinator, whom we sometimes call the school mama. So she basically looks after international students from the moment they arrive on Australian soil. They have her mobile number or his mobile number, and they're contactable 24/7. So any issues, they can first go to this person or to their homestay family. The school is also very supportive, where they have got a homestay manager, all the school teachers, careers counselor. Many schools even have a psychologist. So student well-being is a really important aspect of school life in Victoria. Next, we have over 150 primary and secondary schools. Now, I don't mean that we only have that many schools in all of Victoria. We actually have hundreds more, but these are accredited schools that have gone through a very stringent process to ensure they've met all our requirements and criteria in order to enroll and support international students. These schools must have all the balances and checks in place before they can become accredited, and they are audited every couple of years to ensure that they are meeting our standards. If they don't meet our standards, they lose their accreditation. That's how seriously we take accreditation of our schools. Supportive and safe homestay families. We really, really are proud to say that all our homestay families are school sourced. So all our schools source their homestays from within the local community or within the local school community. Many of these homestay families either have children who studied at the school or have had kids who've graduated from the school, or they live very close within the community itself. So they're safe, they've done all the checks. The schools will have to inspect this homestays to ensure that they meet the requirements. And if they do, and they are suitable and appropriate, then they will have to all conduct a police check and a working with children check for anyone who's 18 years and over who's residing at that home. So we do take this very seriously as well. And there are frequent check-ins throughout the year to make sure that the students are happy. And as you know, the question you might ask is, what if the homestay is not a right fit? Not a problem. We understand that sometimes humans, personalities clash. If it's not suitable, we will find a homestay that will meet the needs of that particular student. Now, I mentioned before, Melbourne is Australia's top student city. And last but not least, STEM, science, technology, maths, and engineering is huge in our schools. I understand that's probably quite an important area. It's the future, it's the way to go. So we have many programs that actually can help students in this pathway. All right, moving on to the next one, Kel. All right, I'm going to now hand this over to my colleague, Ellie, who's going to talk to you more about our different programs.
I am going to talk today about the different types of applications that can be submitted. We have 4, and the first one is our standard application. Now, for students to study on a standard application, they need to have a 500 visa, which is a student visa, and they need to be minimum 6 years old. This program is for primary school students and secondary school students. We have a few academic requirements. that are needed. The most important one is the average score for the students. So for the last 2 years, we're going to look that they have an average score of 60% in the core subjects. Usually the core subjects are mathematics, English, science, humanities, and the student's first language. Most of our standard students will, let's say like 99% of them, will undertake an intensive English language program that Joe mentioned before in one of our English language centers. Then we have another type of application for the next slide, which is study abroad. For this application as well, students will be required to have a 500 visa, which is a student visa. There are a few differences between the previous one, standard, and study abroad, because study abroad only covers from year 9 to year 11. And students on this program study with us between 3 months and 9 months. So it's more about the experience of living in Australia, living here in Melbourne, learning a foreign language, understanding the culture, than really the academic side of it, although the academic side is involved. They also finish a bit earlier than local students, because at the end of each year, there are exams which they will not undertake. So students study abroad will not undertake the exams. For example, for term 4, the end date is 3 weeks earlier for year 10 students, 3 weeks earlier than students that are local. And for year 11 and year 12, the program ends 4 weeks earlier than local students. Both study abroad and standard students can only study in accredited schools, which is what Joe was mentioning before. Now we're going to move on to the next 2 types of applications, which are dependent and temporary. The students don't need a 500 visa on their own. Dependent students are the ones that come over with parents who are students themselves in Australia. And temporary students are usually students who are here on a tourist visa. So they study between 8 and a maximum of 12 weeks. And these are our type of students. Now I am going to share our website, and I'm going to show you where you can find some of the information regarding the different types of applications and the fees. All right, there we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Beautiful. So this is our website, and our website is study.vic.gov.au. This is our homepage. And here in Studying in Victoria, you can click on this and you will find a lot of information that is relevant. You can find, for example, school fees. School fees is probably something that parents will ask you straight away about. And here you can see the different types of fees. So you will be able to download a PDF that will illustrate all the type of fees for the different types of applications. Note that some of the applications have different fees one from the other. We also have here on how to apply, which is here. You will find all the 4 applications that you can apply for and all more relevant information about these applications that you might need. And now I am going to pass it over to Kelly.
Wonderful.
Kelly, to you.
Thank you very much, Ellie. So I'm going to go back very briefly to the presentation that we were working on, first of all, because what I'm going to be speaking about now is our Right School, Right Place publication. I just want you to see a visual of this now. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take you back to the website that Ellie was just showing you. Okay? So we're going to go back to the website. And I'm going to show you where you can find our Right School, Right Place publication. when you're on our website here, the home page, you want to go to brochures and forms here on the upper right hand side. You're going to click on brochures and forms. You're going to scroll down a little bit and you'll look here for Right School, Right Place. So as Joanne was mentioning earlier, she was talking about how Victoria has over 150 accredited schools. Right School, Right Place will give you more detailed information about our accredited Victorian government schools. So when you go to Right School, Right Place, it'll tell you a little bit about Victoria. It'll give you some information about Victoria as a livable city and a little bit of information about the guide. But I want to share with you, first of all, this map that is towards the beginning of the publication, because it's a really valuable tool when you're speaking with your parents and students. So on the map here, if you can see here where my cursor is, you can see this is where the city of Melbourne is. So this is central Melbourne here. And on the map, it radiates out and it will give you the location of all of our Victorian government schools. Some of the detail of this map, if you notice, some of the schools are round and some of them are square. The difference is the square icons here indicate a Victorian government school that has an on-site English language center, which is really key because it's really helpful to a lot of our students to start at the English language center at the school and then transition to the host school. The icons that are triangular here, this is the Victorian government English language schools. So if a school nearby does not have an on-site English language center, the student will go to the closest Victorian English language school. Okay, so I'm going to take you through and give you an example of one of our profiles within Right School, Right Place. So as you can see here, each of the profiles will have information about the school, the location. It'll provide you with the website. So if you need more information about the school, you can go to the website. But it will also provide you with features of the school. Features meaning the sort of languages that are taught at the school. So for example, at Bendigo Senior Secondary, they teach languages like Chinese, Indonesian, German, and French. It will also give you a description of some of the special programs that they offer. Also, some of the extracurricular activities like student council, science, mathematics, debating, and also performing and visual arts. Okay. Another key feature of Right School, Right Place is towards the end of the publication. And I'm going to take you there now, because as Joanne was explaining, we offer over 90 VCE subjects. And to assist your families and students at the end of Right School, Right Place, we have this wonderful table here that will show you all of the VCE subjects that are offered. So if you look on the top here, it'll give you a list of all of the subjects. On the left hand here is where all of the schools are listed. And each of the dot points here will indicate the VCE subject that that school offers. Okay? So for example, if you look at Ashwood, Ashwood offers VCE courses in accounting, it offers VCE course in chemistry, and also a course in, let's see here, history. Okay, so that is how you will use this table. And as I said before, it's a really valuable resource when you are advising your families and students. Okay, all right. So now I'm going to take you back to the to the website, the first page of the website. And Joanne is going to speak to you a little bit about one of our other really wonderful publications. And that is our Picture Yourself Studying in Victoria brochure.
That's great. Thank you, Kel. That was wonderful, Kelly. So as you can see, we've got our brochure here. It's like our Bible, really. It's the Picture Yourself Studying in Victoria, and it's a pretty comprehensive publication end to end. It'll give you a full introduction of the state, reasons to study here, the livability of the city, as well as it gives you an overview of the system and VCE. So you can see there are 5 different languages that the brochure has been published in, English, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese. And interestingly, you'd like to know too, maybe, that our website is also in 5 different languages, which Kelly will show you afterwards how to get to. Seeing that we're in this tab, let's go into the English brochure. All right, so just scrolling through very briefly, it tells you a little bit about, what you can do, the 10 reasons for choosing a Victorian education. And then it delves into, just the lifestyle aspects and, reasons to live here and so forth. And we're going to skip over to talk a little bit about the VCE, because that's where we get quite a lot of questions. And if you haven't studied here, you probably have quite a few questions yourself. So I like to refer to them as the purple pages, because then it's easy to understand. Okay, so we've got the VCE there, and I'll give you an example. So if we scroll onto the next page, I think it was page 21, correct? Thank you, Kelly. If you look at the examples there, we have 3 examples of what students study during the VCE and the pathways they can undertake. So basically, these are the subjects they will study in order to help them get into the courses of their choice at tertiary level. Let's go through example 1. VCE is a 2-year course, a full 2-year course. And you can see that all students study English or EAL, English as an additional language for international students. And that's the only compulsory subject. Students then choose another 5 subjects. Some choose 6, but majority will do an extra 5, so 6 in total. For this particular student, they've done maths, they've done IT or information technology, and then there's accounting, there's business management, and some other elective or subject that will help suit their university prerequisites and career goals. So if you look onto the right column in year 12, they continue on with the same subjects. And at the end of VCE, once they've done the exams and they've successfully passed, you can see that this will allow them to apply for different courses. And that would include accounting, architecture, legal practice, marketing, and so forth. So just looking through at all the different examples, it will give you an idea how the VCE is structured and the pathways that will allow them, it will allow them to go through in order to successfully apply for their course. All right, so you know where to find this publication. So I highly encourage that you actually do have a look at it, because it'll give you a lot more detail than what we can give you in this time frame that we have. All right, so if we go out back into the tab before, so in order to access our website in different languages, you just scroll up right to the top and you see that little icon that says English. Just click on that and you can select Chinese, Japanese, Korean, even Vietnamese. And I understand there's some Vietnamese agents here with us today. So that would be really handy, not just for yourself, but for the parents and students that you counsel and meet. All right. So if you're looking at this tab that we have, lots of gems there. We've got our accredited school lists and so forth, but the main ones are the ones that we have already just gone through. Okay. Now, moving on, I thought you might like to know a little bit about our students' pathways and their destination. So we do a yearly survey annually of our VCE students and where they end up. So I'm just going to share a slide, and I pardon the data. This is just an example. But because of COVID year, we weren't able to capture the data last year from the year before. So just as an indication, we surveyed, in 2018, we surveyed our international students, and 318 of them responded. And you can see majority of them went to the University of Melbourne, so 20.4%, followed closely by RMIT at 18.2, and Monash Uni at 17.9. And the rest of them went to different universities, either in Victoria or other states, or some even returned to their home country, or actually went abroad to other countries to spread their wings. So, you know, VCE, the choice is endless. It is recognized worldwide, and it will lead them to the pathway of their choice. Okay. So that concludes our formal presentation, and I'll hand this back to Bo, who's going to.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your lovely presentation today. That was really great, very fruitful. And especially, I must say as well, I use that Right School, Right Place guide all the time. That is really, really good and I do encourage agents to use that as well, because most agents will know that when they get an inquiry, it's usually maybe a family member lives in Melbourne. And on that map, you can easily identify the suburbs, and you can see, oh, okay, I have family based in the suburb in the west, and I want to see what schools are around in that particular area. And I like how it has identified the different regions, like the west of Melbourne, east, northwest, and so on. So it really is a fantastic guide. And plus, you can see which schools have already the English language program there as well. I really do appreciate that. So that is my Bible. That should be everyone's Bible for Victoria Government Schools. It really is fantastic. So yes, if anyone has any questions, please do ask. The team and the panelists are more than happy to answer your questions, whether it be about admissions or requirements. I think the requirements were pretty clear as well. They're looking for 60% basically of their academic record in their home country, which is pretty reasonable. And of course, you don't need to have an IELTS test, of course, to study at Victoria Government Schools as well. If you don't have IELTS, you can do up to 20 weeks of English language preparation. And as we all know, there's a lot of schools that already have the English Language Centre embedded in their school. So it's very, very convenient for students. Yeah, so just waiting for some questions to come through. I see one right now. What is the difference? This is a good question. This comes from Jenny. Hi everyone. What is the difference between a registered school and an accredited school?
Okay, very quickly. It's a simple one, and it's a great question. Basically, accredited schools can provide homestay. So they're accredited right up to that level to provide all the welfare options. A registered school is not, and that also covers our primary schools, because primary schools do not provide homestay. So the difference is the welfare, the level of welfare that we can provide. So accredited schools are usually the ones that our majority of our international students on a standard student visa would select, because they usually come and they want homestay that our schools will source. Yeah,
that's right. So whether you're registered or accredited, you can accept international students, but accredited can only look after has that added welfare of homestay available.
But also just note, primary schools are all registered because they don't provide homestay. Yeah. And so, as Ellie mentioned before, standards in study abroad need to study at accredited schools, right? But temporary students as well as full fee dependents, they can study at both accredited and registered schools. Yeah. So student visa holders, accredited schools, basically.
Yeah. Clear, very clear. This is a question that I get a lot as well. Can the student, the question is, can the student join at year 11 and 12 only? But maybe you could talk about when would be the latest date or the latest time a student could enroll at Victoria Government Schools, because there's something really important about you know, enrolling at year 12. It's too late, because as we all know, VCE is a 2-year qualification. So we always get questions about, oh, I have a student ready to start year 12. So what would be your answer to that?
Ellie, you want to do this?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So then for VCE, students need to enroll from term 1 in year 11. If they're studying English though, so if they're doing what we call ELC, so English, studying at an English language center, then they will need to enroll half year earlier. So they will need to enroll from, you know, from year to half of the year, the previous year, to have the 20 weeks of English requirements fulfilled. So it depends on their English, and they have to start in term 1 of year 11. That is because they can go over all the subject, cover all the units that they are required to do for their VCE.
Yeah, that's very clear. So that's really important, that if a student wants to start in year 11, they really have to be starting the main course. They can't just do English from term 1 year 11. They have to prepare before. So that's really important. And normally it works out, because a student might finish year 10 in Vietnam, then do 20 weeks of English from July to December, and then transition into the year after that. So it's really convenient for Northern Hemisphere students, in my opinion. So I got another good question here about GTE. Maybe this one could be for you, Ellie, as well.
I just looked at Manjula's question, and the only exception is if a student has got really a strong command of English and they're ready to go into term 1, VCE, year 11, that's fine. But as Ellie mentioned, majority of our students will do English with us. But if you're, for example, you're from Malaysia, KL, where, you know, you've got a strong command of English, for example, then you might want to consider that option and just do the full VCE 2 years. Yeah.
There are some students also that have studied in an English school already. So if a student has already studied for 2 years in an English speaking school, an international school, where all the subjects are delivered in English, then they will be able to join VCE as well without going through our English language.
Yeah, that's right. And you would do an assessment on that?
Yes, of course. Yeah, very thorough. Yes.
Great. And if a student didn't, for example, maybe they could use IELTS instead to get into year 11. I think it's 5.5 or 6.
Correct. That's right.
Yeah. For year 11 and year 12, it's a 6.
Yeah,
the minimum
year 11
requirement.
Is,
yeah. From year 7 to year 10, it's a 5.5.
Great.
And so all our requirements, Bo, just so that they know, it's on our website as well, and they can refer to that.
Perfect.
All the tests that we use, we don't just use IELTS, we use various tests.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's really important to note as well. There's a question here about GTE. So for student dependent children, does this Victoria Government Schools require a GTE / statement of purpose for admission purposes? What documents are needed to prove a parent-child relationship?
GTE is usually required by the visa officers, right? It's not something that we require. We don't actually require that. Ours is mainly just the school reports, copy of their passport if they have that available. What documents are needed to prove a parent-child relationship? Well, we don't ask them to prove that, but usually, you know, most of our kids, they come through an agency, so that would all be arranged already.
Already vetted that way, yeah. Okay, that's great. And let's see if there's any more questions here. We got a question about the border and when that's opening, but that's a difficult question, and none of us can answer that question with any confidence. But what would you say, Joanne? Some of our partners like to still encourage applications, but without a guarantee when the border will open.
Their guess is as good as ours. We're all
Yes.
hoping for the best. We're still waiting, and we're still working with the federal government to apply for exemptions and to ensure that we're lobbying. But everyone is trying their best. It's a really tricky situation, and we can't give you a definite answer. But as you know, we've been approved for online learning for semester one, even for newly commenced students who are offshore. So that's a really good start as an interim measure so that students actually don't miss out and they don't lose time. You know, instead of 6 months waiting around, not knowing what they're going to do, at least they can commence for those who have already started and who have submitted the applications and we've approved. So hopefully, we don't know what's going to happen. Not sure. Hopefully, term 3, we're waiting. We're waiting. But once we know, we'll definitely advise our agents and you'll be able to advise everyone as well.
Great. Let's see here. Got another question here. Hi there. For a student who start the English course half a year before year 11, what if at the end of the 20 weeks, after the 20 weeks of English course, the student does not have a good enough level of English to start term 1, year 11? What would be the scenario then? So they've gone to Australia July to do 20 weeks, but the teachers feel that the student doesn't have the right level enough to enter year 11 just yet. Maybe they need a little bit more extra. What would be the scenario, and would there be some leniency there to allow the student to enter a little bit later?
Yeah, so look, guys, you can jump in anytime, but this one is something that has happened very rarely though. And the beauty about it is we talked about our English language centers being on site, which allows our schools to actually monitor the progress of the students. So they don't just find out in December prior to January when the students are expected to start. They sort of already know as they can monitor it quite closely. In that event, it does happen, or the student will definitely have to repeat perhaps another term, maybe another semester. In some instances, some schools, because the ELCs are all on site, students by then will have enough command of English to actually do subjects that do not require too much of an English component. So basically subjects that have more of a hands-on experience like PE, for example. So students can actually start whilst they're still completing their ELC, only in very exceptional circumstances. I'm not talking about all schools. It's only in those instances that then they also then start their VCE in certain subjects. So it has happened before, but not a lot, because usually the 20 weeks is sufficient for all our students. Ellie, Kelly, you want to add anything to that?
I have nothing to add, no.
That's plenty. Yeah, you covered it all.
Yeah.
But as you said, it's happened very rarely that a student did not pass the English language course. So, yeah.
Yeah. Got another question about subject selections. So that guide that Kelly showed us before, that was a really great guide to see what schools offer what subjects. That's really great. But Manjula asks, can students do the subject selection before the enrollment? So can they choose their subjects, and should they be worried about whether the quota will be filled in a certain subject as well? Let's say the student wants to study chemistry, but there's only maybe enough room for one class or two class. Is that why a student should select before enrollment, or is it quite flexible once the student arrives?
Anyone want to talk about that? No?
You can start if you want.
Okay, so basically that's why on our application form for VCE students, for year 11 students, we actually ask for them to list their subject preferences. And so when the application is actually sent to the schools for consideration, schools will actually look and take into consideration the subject choices to ensure that firstly, the school offers that subject. And secondly, that the school, if they do, they actually have the capacity for that particular student, because as you know, it's not just the international students, also the local kids and the other international students. So those are the things that we actually capture in the application form. Other things talking about the application form is we also ask about the students' preferences for homestay. So
Yeah.
we capture as much information and detail as possible so that we can match the student to the right school as well as to the right homestay family. Okay.
Very good.
Wonderful.
I have a good question here about quotas for international students. So how many quotas are there for international students? So for example, at some schools like maybe how would there be a limit on international students per school, and how does Victoria Government School determine that?
Yeah, so that's part of their accreditation. Every school, and particularly schools that are in certain zones, as you probably may have heard, some schools are zoned, probably because of the density of that area and having to service all the local kids as well. So there are some schools that have got a smaller quota than others, and that will be part of their accreditation. So they do have a cap. So once they reach that capacity, they are unfortunately unable to accept any more international students, which is also the reason why on our application form, we ask for not just one school, we ask for 3 to 5 schools, if not more, to be listed, because we will actually contact the schools in order of preference. So if preference number 1 is unavailable, they don't have capacity, then we'll go on to school number 2 and so forth. That's our process.
Fantastic. And yeah, okay. Yeah. Is it also, is it possible for students to switch subjects going into year 12? So let's say a student selected mathematics or chemistry, but wants to change, not satisfied, or maybe they cannot. So let's know about what would be a deadline before students can change subjects.
Yeah, thankfully for our schools, they do have teachers that actually can, like I mentioned, monitor the progress. So if they know, for example, that the student is not going to be suited to that subject, there is that possibility of changing the subjects, probably at the earlier end of year 11. However, in year 12, depending on the subject itself, it is possible. It doesn't always happen though, another rare exception. But for certain subjects, it is possible, as long as there's enough credits, because BCE is all based on a system of gaining enough credits. So Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, and 4 over 2 years. So it will depend on the school. It'll be dependent on the school actually monitoring the progress of that kid and ensuring that they select the right students right from the start, right subjects, I beg your pardon, right from the start.
Fantastic. Yeah, just to got one question, maybe she didn't hear. Yeah, so Tu Gao from Vietnam, if a student wants to start at the start of year 11, and they didn't have enough time to do the English language program, you got to have IELTS 6. You got to have really strong command of English to be able to start ready to go at year 11. There cannot be any more time wasted on that. You've got to be ready because we all know VC is a two-year qualification, so you've got to be ready to start at that time. So if you have a student that would like to apply for year 11 term 1, you've got to have that IELTS 6.0 for sure.
Not only that, but they probably would have to demonstrate a strong school report as well.
Yes, right.
There's going to be a lot of changes. They're moving countries. They're moving into a foreign system. Their family's not with them. So an adjustment period there. So they need to actually be strong academically.
Yeah, absolutely. And that I do recommend, that's why I do recommend students really preparing a lot of time before. And it's definitely a lot better for the student to go and do that English language program 6 months before. Yeah. That would be a lot of benefit to the student. So year 11, it's possible, but not recommended. I would definitely recommend more the English language program.
Yeah, we recommend it because of the cultural adjustment.
Exactly.
And getting used to the school and everything. So it would be highly recommended.
Yeah, that's right.
Much better for the student.
During the English language course as well, it's not just teaching the English language. Just imagine you have 6 different subjects all of them have very specific terminology. During that time, they're actually going to learn all that terminology as well that goes with each subject that they're going to be undertaking in mainstream. So it's more than just pure English. It's actually a lot. It goes deeper into that. And as I mentioned, it's settling into the school community, getting used and adapting to Australian school life as well. So by year 11, they're fully ready to launch into.
Exactly. Yeah. Got another question on that from Siang from Malaysia. So Malaysian students from the international school system with IGCSE with a good English score, is it possible to go direct into year 11 without IELTS?
Good question. No, because if you want to go directly into mainstream, you need to prove something. School reports are just as good. However, you need to prove to us through an official test that we have approved. One of our tests could be AEAS, IELTS, TOEFL, like
TOEFL.
Yes, TOEFL and the AICAN, the Japanese AICAN.
So AICAN is Japanese, so probably, yeah. So one of those tests, as long as you can demonstrate the score that we require, then that's not a problem. Just trying to guesstimate from school reports is probably not the safest way to do it.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'll take one last question. If the student finished year 10, partnered with the American school system in the Philippines, can we assume that they will qualify for year 11 and 12 in Australia, or are there chances they will study year 10 again? So I think, yeah, Edmund, yeah, if the student finishes year 10, they would qualify for year 11, but when do they finish, Edmund? If the student finishes around July, it would still be good for the student to do English language course. But if it was in the American system, what would you say, Joanne from the Philippines?
Kelly, do you?
Maybe you can.
I've never had
Our requirements is that in order to skip the English language requirements, I guess if it's partnered with an American school, and if that means that all subjects were taught in English only, then we could accept them without the English requirements. Also, having attended year 10, yes, they will be able to apply for year 11, but we will need to check that they have strong scores, because we need them to be obviously strong students, otherwise they won't be able to be accepted. They will also have, if they're standard students, they usually also have an interview with the school. So to check that the students, to check that they're suitable, etc. So there are a few steps anyway, even if it's an English-speaking school.
Yeah. Okay. Understood. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it for today. We're on time, and there was a really good presentation from everyone, and I hope everyone listening in today got some really good information, clear information about Victoria Government Schools. And once again, thank you to our panelists today. Really, really good job. And thank you so much for your support, and good luck for the rest of the year as well.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay. Bye for now. See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.